Rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we battle, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a lick up, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. I'll tell you now. Here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here comes the West Indies. Special request to the Trini posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Jamaica posse?
Sitting away quickly, that's Western Warrior in the black cap.
My mother hated to hear anything about horses or me talking about backing horses.
These three groupers, they now flash past the 7 and make their way down the backstretch.
She used to tell my father, don't give me my lunch money for the week until Sunday morning, because she knew if I got it Saturday morning, by Saturday evening I wouldn't have any. I got a proper walloping one Saturday as well.
Don Valley in between horses, and they now go rushing into that turn.
So the radio is on and the race comes up. And I'm trying to be as calm as I possibly can listening to this race.
Pontius Pilot is 5 lengths off that lead and running in fourth. Dante racing on the rail, accompanied by...
And I jump up, go on, Scobell. And of course my mother hears me. Oh, you buying horses? I've been hooked on horses from before I got the double figures.
We're high up in the Blue Mountains here, the hustle and bustle of Kingston and the harbour way down below us. And Kingston is where we've come to discover the story behind the bowler they call Whispering Death.
It's a lovely run, acceleration, and that beautiful last 3 or 4 strides.
Very good runner, used to come gliding in off a long run, and if you're at the drunk strikers end, you had to keep on checking to see if he was coming, if you couldn't hear him.
And what a great delivery. There's a firm piece of bowling.
I see the love for the horses. It is mirrored in his run-up and his pace. You can see that.
There are some bowlers who are ugly, some who are beautiful. And this fella, I think, is magnificent.
You know, it was poetry, that nickname, Whispering Death. You couldn't hear him coming. But when he got there, you knew about it.
And he bowled him. Played on. A very, very good Yorker, that one.
Normally, there's a lot of great physical effort from a fast bowler. It has to be. Michael was so quiet. It was so smooth and easy. He was just a great bowler.
Always bowling. Beautiful ball. That's the wicket that West Indies wanted. Clean bowl by Michael Holding.
How do you describe yourself, as a Jamaican or a West Indian?
Well, I'm definitely a Jamaican first, but I like to consider myself a Caribbean person. When you talk about the West Indies, as you know, it's only a name that has been given because of West Indies cricket. We usually refer to us as Caribbean people, but ultimately I am a Jamaican. But cricket is what bonds the entire region together, the entire English-speaking region together. So I prefer to think of myself as a Caribbean person, but I would never give up my Jamaica passport. Well, this is a cricket ground that I played my first ever official cricket match. I used to live just behind that wall there, almost parallel to where that school is. That was my backyard where that black roof is. And we just walked down here, and the kids from the area, we all used to come down here and play. Hey. Yeah, what you say?
Well, I'm coming close.
Everything good?
Yeah, man. Mikey, we have fight a good fight here.
I hear you.
Yeah.
It's an idyllic place, the Caribbean, a nice place to grow up.
Definitely. Absolutely brilliant place to grow up. As you can see, others, no sweaters, no coats. You can be outside 365 days of the year.
Which you were. That was your childhood, really. A very outdoorsy, physical
Once it was
childhood.
dark. Your parents expected you to be back home by the time it got dark. But the first light, you're out. You were down here the entire day. You'd walk down Red Hills Road. There were a couple of shops down there. They'd go down there and hang around, get some lunch, meaning you'd buy a bun and cheese or something, a soft drink, come back and play your football or your cricket.
So you were using kind of cork with twine wrapped around.
And it was what we used to call cork and tar.
Yeah.
It was balls that lasted longer than the leather balls. And they were red initially, but by the time you use them a few times, all the red was stripped, so they became black. So when it started to get a little bit dark, you could hardly see them.
And it was pretty much every man for himself, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You bowl, you get somebody out, you have a bat.
Yes, but you had to get them out by hitting the stumps. Because if somebody took a catch, the person who took the catch would bat. You didn't get a chance to bat.
It's quite a good grounding for a bowler. Hit the stumps, bowl straight.
Exactly. You bowl straight and you try and bowl fast because obviously you had no umpires. The guys had no pads either, no gloves, no pads. So if they stand in front of the stumps and you hit them on the legs, tough.
This was also where you played a kind of first ever formal cricket match. I think in your book you wrote that your sister went out to buy you a pair of trousers. She came back with some kind of fancy
dress pants. It wasn't a pair of cricket trousers. It was a shopping plaza up here called Tropical Plaza. And she went up there just into a store, got this pair of white pants. When they came back, I was the only one on the field with this fancy white pair of trousers because that's the only thing she could find. Because it was not until the morning of the game that the guys from the area came up to the backyard there and shouted, Mrs. Holden, Mrs. Holden, we want Mikey to play today.
Melbourne Cricket Club, almost a second home for you.
Yeah, it was pretty much a second home. My father registered me at Melbourne from birth.
Your house is about a mile and a half down the road.
2 miles from
Were you allowed to just make your way here? Or
No. I would come down here with my parents because my parents would come here on a regular basis. My mother, my father, my two sisters, my brother, and myself, all of us would come down here. I would spend a lot of time down here.
I've known Mikey a long time. From when I was a youngster. He grew up in this club.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that the pavilion there, Holdings Pavilion, with the apostrophe very much after the S, which means it's
because
for the whole family.
Right, his father was a builder, and he actually built most of that pavilion. And he used to be president of the club at one point, and his mom came down, so he was always here with them.
A few old mates, yeah. I mean, what's the form? Tonight, a few guys would come down, they'd play a bit of dominoes, have a barbecue, a few beers.
Well, Monday night is a barbecue chicken night. Right. Under that shed there, they do all the barbecuing. You'll find guys playing cards and dominoes. You'll find a lot of guys in the bar having a drink or two. Melbourne Cricket Club was a club that toured the rural area of Jamaica on almost every Sunday, unless of course it was during the cricket season when they had games. And we would go down to the backside companies. We used to call them curry goat matches because they would kill a goat for every game and they would eat curry goat for lunch. But they were great games to get your grounding in as a young man because you're playing with senior guys and senior guys around guiding you and helping you.
When I first saw him as a youngster, he played for me again in President's 11. He bowled some big in-swingers. And I thought that, although he hadn't achieved 5-wicket hauls for Jamaica, he was taken to Australia on a learning process of such, because I thought that the faster wickets he would, and he did. He just sort of matured from there on in.
As often happens, Mikey, the start of a great period came on the back of a pretty horrendous tour to Australia, 1975-76, your first tour.
Yeah, and I can tell you when I got back from that first tour, I told my parents, if that is West Indies cricket, I don't need to be a part of it. It was a horrendous tour for many reasons.
5-1.
The result, yes. I was very upset with the umpiring for two because I was just a naive young man, first time playing test match cricket. It wasn't good. It was not great. The spirit within the team was not good. But even so in others, we were being very competitive.
I mean, the germ of the side was there. All those who became great cricketers were all there.
Definitely.
Viv
Richards, Gordon Greenwich, Clive Lloyd, Andy Roberts, myself. We were all in that team. This bridge that we were approaching was a real ramshackle bridge that was mostly lumber, pieces of lumber that went over this river. And when the car went over the bridge, it used to make a lot of noise. And this is where I used to wake up and say, yes, we are near to the track. I've been hooked on horses from before I got the double figures.
It's a curious combination, really. It's an exceptionally beautiful racetrack with the background of the hills, but it's pretty rustic. I can't imagine it's changed very much since you first
Not
came
a lot.
here.
The stands haven't really changed a lot. The first time I came to the racetrack, I went to the stable area because I came down here with my brother's godmother. He came with her because she owned horses, and because I wanted to go where my brother was going, I just jumped in the car and came down here. And I just fell in love with the horses from the very first time I saw them. You're standing beside those big animals, and those days you couldn't really pat them too much, you couldn't touch them because I was so small, they wouldn't allow me to touch them. But just being so close to them, it was great.
How long you known Mikey?
Oh, too long. Right, from 1971, 72, when he was a schoolboy. He had a big afro in those days. And I told him that he had to go to Australia, he had to cut it off. And he said no, but I got his father to tell him to cut it off, and he did.
And you owned horses together?
And we owned horses together, not for long enough, but he got scared and left the industry.
A good partner to have?
Always is. Nice fella, right? Has been my good friend for years.
Your friend Howard's got a horse running in the 5th race.
Yes, and they say
he
it
quite
will win.
fancies it. So
They say it will win.
we might have a little tickle on that later.
Yeah, I bought a couple of dollars to put on it. Yeah, man, easy. Everything good. Dr.David. Oh, yeah. Good to see you, man. Who need it? Yeah, but the last one lead about you today.
I said, now come into the lane and into Western Warrior with that lead. Marlene, my love, now unleashed by West.
No, Marlene win now. Marlene win. One island
away inside the final 16. Marlene, my love, with a clear lead now beginning to open up in the end. Wesley Henry and Marlene, my love, win by more than 3.
That's super. Well, Island win about disappoint about.
I would never pass. I would never mind. I would never disappoint.
When I played the game, obviously, cricket was number one. Yeah. But cricket now is work. This is all fun. There's absolutely no pain in this. This is all fun.
Mr. Mikey Holding, what did you think of Marlene, my love's performance?
I thought he might have been in a bit of trouble because she didn't seem to be quickening, and the number 4 horse was traveling so well. But it seems like she had some staying power as well. So I think that was a good performance.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
And there we have it. Legend himself, Mr. Mikey Holding.
It's often said that West Indies came to England and the crowds are often predominantly black crowds, second generation, first generation from the Caribbean, that they felt lifted by the performance of that team through the years. Did you feel that as somebody representing the region?
Not initially, to be honest. I went there, I knew we made them feel happy. I knew that they were proud of the way the West Indies played and proud of the fact that the West Indies won. But I didn't realize to what extent it really meant. Obviously, your team is winning, you're going to be proud, but it meant a bit more than that to them.
What do you think of the West Indies team this year?
Oh, big and more to them. Big and more to them.
When the West Indies lost, they would see the newspaper on their desk. West Indies just got beat. So it just made them feel so good. It made them feel that they were of worth in England, although they were so far away from home.
Who's going to do the murdering?
And I can remember watching Greggy talking to some television station saying,
the West Indians, these guys, if they get on top, they're magnificent cricketers. But if they're down, they grovel. And I intend, with the help of Closey and a few others, to make them grovel.
Tony Greig, being from a South African background, coming from a country of apartheid, using that particular word just did not go down very well.
Oh, dear me. Because they had a lot of fast bowlers, didn't they? And as a batsman, you start to think about, what did he say that for? Isn't that going to inspire the fast bowlers? Aren't they going to bowl a yard or two faster?
And he's bowled him. So Holding strikes again. A very disappointed, disenchanted Tony right there.
With my background, using the word grovel, I got exactly what I deserved.
Straight away, they got stuck into us in the series, and And with that comment, very much in the forefront of their minds.
A really quick one, that. That's hurt him. That's somewhere, I think, round about the mark where earlier he let one bounce off him.
Old Trafford, I was not trying to bowl bouncers. The pitch was of such poor quality. It started to open up, cracks were opening up, and once that ball hit the crack, it was taking off.
And I think there's going to be a warning this time from umpire Bill Alley. Enough is enough, he says, and quite rightly so. He's really overdone the short pitches.
I did the very best I could, but boy, they lifted their game against me. And a few of my colleagues didn't enjoy it when I came out to the middle.
One of the defining performances of your career came very early on, didn't it? At the Oval, 1976, 14 wickets.
22 years old.
Didn't know any better.
No, I just ran in and bowled past.
And he's out, LBW this time. There's a danger man holding.
I wasn't running it down, I was just keeping it full. Because the pitch was so slow, there was absolutely no bounce in the pitch. David still just kept on pushing that left foot down the pitch, irrespective of where the ball hit on the deck. So I decided to just run up and bowl as full as possible.
And it's bowling. That's a good piece of bowling from Holding.
Just pure pace, getting through batsmen with pure pace and running in, lovely rhythm. Everything was going for Holding that day.
Bowling. There's a quick delivery from Michael Holding.
And he's out, I think. It's on his way. It's caught behind.
It's tremendous. He swung the ball around. And that's what he did when he was younger, when I first saw him.
And he's bowled too, and Holding's got it surely this time. And that has really got to be the end of England here in this 5th Test match.
I motivated them. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I motivated the West Indies.
Holding to Willis. And that's out, and it's LBW, and it's all over. Holding takes the wicket, overcome the crowd, and the West Indian fielder sprinting into the pavilion to avoid getting mobbed by their admirers.
Story goes that I got the 14 wickets on that pitch because people like Andy and Van Buren, who were seasoned cricketers, knew the pitch and said, nah, we won the series already, I'll take it easy.
Michael Holding has really been the West Indian hero here today.
People are saying, oh, we have run out of talent. West Indies cannot run out of talent. I'll probably come and turn around about here and take a few steps, trot into where the actual marker was and then start running.
Always bowling. Beautiful ball.
Well, it looked pretty good. When I seen the film, they were all jumping up and down, all the West Indies players.
Oh, welcome to West Indies 101. Down memory lane there, whispering death, Michael Holding. The conventional wisdom is that Marshall was the best, and followed by Courtney Ambrose. But as I said, for me, Andy Roberts is my number one, and Michael Holding is my number two. As they say, poetry in motion, West Indian art on a cricket field, black art on a cricket field, and consciousness that comes with it. The whispering death, the Rolls Royce at one time, they called him Michael Holding. I didn't see Roy Gilchrist. I understand he was fast and nasty. But I saw Michael Holding, and I saw Patrick Patterson, and I think they were quick. Good evening to you all, and welcome to this evening's edition of West Indies Cricket 101. Of course, the last week has not been kind to us, but as we would say, what's new? So we have to go back in time to really remind ourselves that what we're seeing on the cricket field today is not what it always was. My two companions are here, Basil Butcher Jr. and Vincent Adams. Michael Holden. I remember in 1974 playing against Guyana, and Clive Lloyd refers to that match. And young man, I think he roughed up Lloyd in that, well, hurried Lloyd in that match, playing against Guyana versus Jamaica. I remember Philbert Blair, might have been Philbert Blair's last match for Guyana. Houghton Dow was in that team for Jamaica. You had people like Sam Morgan and of course Rowe and Foster. Was the captain, Pinnock and so on. But I remember holding hurrying Clive Lloyd. Lloyd, I think, made 100 in that match. And of course, we were going to India 74, 75. Holden didn't get into that team, but by 75, 76, going to Australia, he was in that team. One of the legends. Please share the link. Please share the link and let everybody know that we are on. We are on tonight. Let me bring in Butcher and Doc. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Hines and Basil, and to the listeners.
Good evening, Vincent. Good evening, Dr. Hines, and good evening to your viewers.
Vincent, let me start with you. As Michael was reminiscing, going back to where it all started, what can you identify with in that little documentary there yourself, a cricketer?
Everything, the neighborhood, the street cricket, you never had pads, you never had a prepared wicket. You played on the road, and we used to have some serious cricket on the road, like in Christianborg, like I said, we had alleys. So that one alley would play against the next alley. And your cricket is right on the street. Or if you make a little pitch in some little patch, but there's no prepared wicket. The ball, you play without pads. So I could relate definitely to what he's saying there. And he's right. From morning till night, I remember, at Christianborg, especially during the summers, you leave early morning, 5 o'clock, and you go and you play football on the football field. And by the time the sun comes up, we had a routine. When the sun comes up, you run all the way down to the river, swim across the river and come back. And then you start playing cricket. And then you're playing table tennis in the school building. So when you get out, you gotta play table tennis, or if some of them guys playing football, you gotta play football, and you're coming home till nighttime. So I could relate, exactly to what he's saying there, and and it was enjoyable, and that's how you wouldn't believe my cricket. When my cricket was really came to fruition during that, what is it? That is it 80 and 90-day strike?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Every single day, that's what I did, and after that strike, that was when I found myself because I was out there playing cricket every day.
1962, the 80-day strike. You, as you were transitioning from a professional cricketer, or semi-professional cricketer, to academia, Holden was coming in.
Yes.
So you would not have played with him.
That's correct.
I don't know how much you saw him over the years, but what's your thoughts on him as a fast bowler, as a cricketer?
The guy is the smoothest, the smoothest bowler period that I have ever seen. He doesn't appear as if first of all, I remember when I saw him before he came down to board. I can't remember which year it was, but
it would have been 75.
75, okay.
Yes.
But how you would never look at.
His first appearance at Border was in 73.
Oh, he was there. He came in 73. Okay. I saw him in 75 with Dujon, Rowe, and all of them when they came there.
Yeah, it's 73. He was still on the 19th player when he first played.
Okay.
Well, I did not even see that. I saw him. I must have seen him in 75 because I wasn't any. At 13, I wasn't even coming to Georgetown yet. So but it might have been his second time he came to Guyana. So I saw the guy and he didn't look like a fast bowler, and he looked slim, but the guy who run up, I mean, just so smooth, and he had the purest action for a bowler. Normally, all them bowlers, they just look like jerky. Some of them you just question if they're pelting. This guy was just a cartwheel. We used to talk about, basketball father used to talk about the cartwheel action. He had the perfect cartwheeling action.
But when I come to you, I have to get two perspectives. What was your father? What your father thought of him, Michael Holden?
I mean, he was a great bowler. He was very quick. One of the best actions you would come across. He would say to the youngsters, that's the textbook action. You look at Michael Holden and see how much of that you can emulate in your action. He was from a West Indian perspective, he was the coaching manual. If you're talking about a fast bowler, Holden, from his run up to his action. And just as Vincent said, you look at you saw him. I remember why I could remember the year. The first time I saw him, I was about 9 years old, but myself, my mother, and my brother right after me. That part of South Stand they call the box? That's like right next to the side screen. Yeah. We were sitting there because I remember Morris Paul hitting a 6. The ball landed right at my foot, and I picked up the ball and threw it back in. But my memory of Holden, you see this guy, he had the big afro, skinny guy running from the North Road, bowling the ball, and the wicketkeeper going up in the air at border. He didn't take I think he took 1 wicket. That's why you see Clive is not remembering him, because Clive played against him in that match 73, right? When Clive is talking about Holden playing with him is in a President's 11 match in 74.
Yes.
Right? And then he had played against Guyana in 74. He didn't take a single wicket. Right? So I guess he forgot about him in 73, but that was the first time. Then he came back in 75. And that's the time when he bowled on Kalicharan. That was a sheer pace. And he had Fred O'Cart behind. And he bowled on Mato.
And he wasn't feeling well. I think he came back on the last day. They said he had flu or something.
Yeah.
Bowled on
Well, I only remember weekends because we only used to go and watch on the weekends. Got school, you had to go to school, right? And we were living in Linden. So I only saw Saturday, Sunday. But again, I remembered him again. I mean, because why do I remember him in 73? I went home and I tried to be Michael Holden because he had the long run up. I go and I run it up, but you know what I mean? Because I had never seen nothing like that. I'm now starting to watch cricket, that I could really understand. But I had never seen nobody like this. A guy, running in from so long and such a smooth action. I wanted to be like him, but shortly thereafter, I realized my body is not to be fast bowling. If I could try with a little cricket, I got to try with a batter, a bowler spin or something.
But you're a coach. Where does that come from? Is that sheer natural talent? Is that something you can coach people to do?
No. You can't. Here, bowling fast is like running fast. You can't coach somebody to do. That's something you're born with. However, you can coach them to be more. You can coach somebody to be faster, just like a sprinter. You can coach a sprinter by tightening up their techniques and so on. But that ability to generate the forces and the mobility in the body and all those things, those are natural. Those are gifts that you are born with.
gifts that you
and you know, Doc, and just to verify that, if you look at every bowler, every fast bowler, every one of them got a different run up, a different action. Look, you nobody thought Blairy, the way Blairy bowled, nobody thought Blairy to bowl it, but Blairy was as fast as anybody would. But
Yeah.
Blairy did not have any textbook action. Period. He was the complete opposite of Michael Holden, but he still bowled fast. But
Yeah,
that was his natural way. He bowled. Blairy was sheer strength off his shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the principles that govern, I have been said would know from science, the principles are the same with everybody, but everybody limbs and body types are different, so they will express it different manners, right? But the principles of what to propel a ball with speed remains the same with everybody, you know. And you could look you could look at one guy and say, well, this is where this guy generates his pace from versus another guy, and so on. It's like Boomer as an example. Boomer has an extra whip because his elbow, he is so mobile everywhere, right? He's so mobile. So Boomer as a bowler can get himself into some of the optimal positions to bowl fast that some guys may not be able to because they don't have the kind of mobility. Because if you look at Boomer's size, he's a slight guy also. He got broad shoulders, but he's a slight guy. But he got his elbow could bend backwards, as we would call it hypermobility. So when most people, the shoulder and then the wrist, he got the extra whip at the elbow that bends back, that gives him that extra whip to propel the ball fast. And then where he releases the ball, Boomer, another thing, if you look at where he releases ball, it's in front of the crease, way in front of the crease. So even if he bowls, like say at 138, the ball is getting to you faster than if a guy bowled it at 138 and he landed in between the crease, his legs, because his arm is so far in front. That's why they always say about Boomer. If you look at Boomer, sometimes he bowls at about 138 and you see hurry the batter, you know? And you're saying, dang, the ball was only 138 come up on the screen. But because he released it further down the pitch than another guy, it hurries you as a batter.
But you know, I'm glad Basil mentioned Boomer because he's another enigma. Because normally, one of the fundamental things in a fast bowl is that momentum from the run up.
Correct.
And this guy he has zero momentum as far as I'm concerned.
No, but Vincent,
all he does is chip to the crease.
Well, I remind you of Vincent. I thought about that and I looked at Boomer because when you're looking at the fast bowler, around the last 4 or 5 strides is where they accelerate. That's where they're supposed to be running at the fastest in their run up. Boomer cut out the part where we talk about running and building up. He chipped, but if you look at his last 5 steps or so, it is the same just like every other fast bowler. But what he does before the first 5 is unconventional. So yes, it makes it seem like he don't have the momentum, but he is picked. That is it where he's running his fastest in his run up. As you know, he walking in and then then he gallop, like some people say, gallops to the crease, right? Because he got that way of his style of running. Even his style of running is not the typical way of somebody would run neither. Michael Holden is textbook. If you wanted to take a fast bowling action and said this is as optimal as it can be, Michael Holden was that.
Didn't Michael Holden run track too?
No, he explained. He said he run little thing in high school, but that was a big thing. Tony Kosher started that story because when you read his book, he debunked it in his book. He said, "I was never no track person as it has been advertised."
Yeah, I think Newman.
Yes,
Newman.
His on the 19 teammate
That's
Newman
right.
ran the 400 meters for Jamaica. He won medals, I think, in the Commonwealth Games, etc. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where the
That's
story
where the
came from.
confusion got because
Yeah, and one of the things they said at the time that he was at UWI at the time studying, which was not true. I think he
might have did some. I think he might have started studying.
Yes.
But, you know, that 75 tour kind of like or he was going to start studying, but getting picked in 70 because he didn't expect to get picked in 75.
Right.
You know, and that kind of put everything, you know, on. I became a professional cricketer.
But let me ask you all this: 2 questions. One, Lloyd is often not given credit for having a keen cricketing eye to look at somebody and say this person is going to be, and we know that Michael Holding is probably his greatest find, right? But he clearly saw other cricketers that he was able to get into the team. Starting with you, what is it? What is it that makes you look at somebody raw and say this person is gonna make it? What is it? What is it that jumps out at you? What is it you look for?
I would say it starts with knowing the game. When you know, and I played with a lot of test cricketers, and there are just a few of them that I would pick out who knew the game. I'm talking about some who captained me, and I don't believe that they knew the game. I mean, not just some fundamental things that they did. And I always say, there's no bias because I used to call I was like a student of the game. And it just came, you know, the feel and maybe, you know, just how I came up. And you read the game, like I could have figured out every single batsman and where to attack them, and the strategy, by the way, because it sounded kind of unconventional, but it made sense. Like, you know, like I could tell you everything. You got to call a batsman name, and I can tell you where their strength is. And my philosophy was, you attack their strength early. For example, like, you know, a lot of batsmen cut. A lot of them like the cut. Well, okay, I'm going to give you your cut when you just come in, but I'm going to put them on the backward point boundary. So you take your chance with your single, especially when you just come in, because you know the bounce to the wicket or anything. And I know as a batsman psychology, something come in my spot where I like to play that shot, I could, you know, I open up myself, and that's where I could make a mistake. And I'm going to give you, go ahead and cut. I've got 2 slips waiting for you. And even if you get a hold it, all you're going to get is a single because I'm going to stop the 4. You cannot. So those are the kinds of basic things that I've played, you know, with like Basil Fado, you know, one of the greatest cricket minds that I've played with, you know, bar none. Clive Lloyd was another one. Even, you know, Rex Collymore. Rex Collymore knew that game inside out. And those folks can look at the player. And I always remind folks, I remember in 1969, no, 68, when we played that on the 19th tournament in Barbados. Lawrence Shaw did not play in 66 in the first schoolboys tournament. So we were playing one game at a time. And Trinidad and the Jamaican team had just arrived. So their first game was against Trinidad. And we decided, you know, we went to this because we were going to play Jamaica next. We were going to play Jamaica next. And Lawrence Shaw made 21 on a wet wicket. And it wasn't about the 20, it's just watching him. And I turned to my team, I turned to the guys, I say, hey, that's the batsman. That is the guy that we're going to have some problems with, that we need to pay attention. Just nobody didn't know none, but, you know, that was his first game on the international, well, when I say international scene, you know, playing for his national team on the 19th. Nobody never heard of Lawrence Shaw. And so said, so done. He bust 100 in us the next game when they played against us. But there's something, if you know the game and you understand the game, you can detect technique immediately. And so when you Clive and them guys, they could look at the bowler. He didn't even have to play. When Bassi Father came to Linden, I remember he pulled out some people who never played. We had a batsman named Paul Dunbar. One of the most correct batsmen. And if you look at Paul Dunbar, you think that Paul should be playing Test cricket.
Yes.
And Bassi Father pulled him out, but and put him in a team without him playing any. Look, months and I'm not taking credit for anything because Andrew Light, when I was at DCC, I don't think Andrew Light ever played White Cup or Case or Narco Cup before he play I can't remember him doing that. But when the guy had a work ethic out of this world. When we finished practicing in the afternoon, Dr. Hines, this man would have them little boys bowling in the dark tree on the pitch, short wicket in the dark. He would come and run all day long when you go to practice. And I looked at the kid and I said, and he had, he picked up, he beat the nest, he picked up from us. And I said, I put him in the Case Cup team. And he would come, he and I open, and I would just tell him, okay, Monsell, you stay at that end. And, if it was pace or it's difficult, I said, okay, just stay at that end. And and the guy just blossom. But you can pick up, those are the kinds of things that, you've got to have a kind of an instinct for and a knowledge of the game.
Knowledge of the game.
It's a knowledge of the game.
Basil?
Look, I just to add what Vincent is saying, one of the things too you would do, you can see when a player comes and plays, and you could see you in your mind, you ticking off the boxes because you're looking at the next level, right? That this player will have to go to. And you're seeing what this player is doing at this level or in the environment you see them, and you could virtually visualize this player playing at that level because you're seeing the things that you're seeing at that level. I give you an example, something I learned from my father. I always tell the story. First time you ever seen Chandapal made 3 runs. And me and he walking out the border after the close of play. And he turned to me and said, that chap Chandapal is a damn good batsman. And I look at him like what? And he says, Skipper, I saw a ball slow up on Chandapal. And he was in good position and played the ball accordingly. That is the mark of a good batsman. Because a lot of guys lose their shape. They're not so good batsmen, lose their shape when the ball stop on them or slow up on them, as the terminology would use, right? And it's those things you look at. They got a youngster right now playing in the South Africa A team. Just come out of the Under 19 World Cup. They're rating him as the best young batsman in the world. He dominated in the SA20. He made, I think, 30 something in the last test because they only batted once. And you could see when that guy came out to bat, he in a different level than the other guys. The way he was hitting the bowling with ease, he had so much command. The guy, second ball, he come down the pitch and hit the ball. I said, what? This guy is a real deal. It's like another day I saw a little Australian boy last year when we were playing the Garfield Sobers tournament. And our guys was sledging the Australians because the Australians had done that to them when we were batting. So when this guy walked out, and them guys, the sledging, the very first ball, the way this guy stroked it, the first ball, with confidence, I said to myself, Lord of mercy, we in trouble here today. This is a bad man. Because the way he played, then the next ball, he easily 6 runs. I said, why we in trouble? But the sledging went on, it went to his head, and he lost his focus and went emotional and tried to hit the next ball, hit it straight up in the air. When he came in, they were sitting there where I was, and I told him, I said, you let the surgeon get you up? He said, yes. I said, I was scared of you after I saw the fourth shot. And when you throw away your wicket, I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Because you could see, as Vincent said, if you've been around the game and you know the game, you see a player and you see the player play a couple strokes right as a batter, you say that's a bad man.
Here, an example, personal example. That same 68 tour, that was where I came, I really excelled. When I always mention this Hallam Mosley guy. The other teams were having problems with him, and I think I handled him well, and I would never forget. Wesal was the manager of the Trinidad team, and the night, and I'm a little bit, expecting somebody like a Wesal is gonna, admire me. Wesal brought over his entire batting team. Including Richard D'Souza, Theo Coffey, Richard Gabriel, all of them. Brought them over to where we were staying at. We were staying in the same hotel complex, so they brought us over to our wing. And you know what Wes was asking me to do? To show them what is my force movement to fast bowling. So here's Wes. He's looking. He's even getting into more detail. It's that force movement. And of course, I was a front foot player because that was Basil. Yeah, you better be playing front foot with his father. But everybody had this belief that no, you gotta, because of the fast ball, you gotta you play back force. Well, of course, them guys doing it nowadays where they're playing back force. But in those, my movement has always been front foot. You don't plant your foot, but you can.
You're on the ball foot.
You move, you move forward.
It's a slight movement, yeah.
It's a kind of a slide, yeah. And he believed Wes was a fast bowler. So he said he could not convince his team that they should go on off the front foot first. but just to show you again that everybody looked for different things. And he thought that was very fundamental to fast bowlers as to what your force movement is. Because especially with pace, you don't have a chance to change your movement too much with a fast ball. You can do it with a spin bowler. So when you make that force move, you're basically committed.
Yeah, same thing with Vince. I say Ray Joseph, and of all people, Ray is not a batsman. In 1980, his debut match for Guyana, Wayne Daniel giving Guyana batters fits. I know, Doctor, I think you remember that.
Yes. Get Timo Mohammed and all them jumping.
Ray went in and batted.
At border?
At border. Ray went in and batted and looked more comfortable against Daniel than some of the frontline batters. And Ray told me the story when he come in after the day's play, the old boy go in the dressing room and start chastising all them batsmen, say, yeah, I need to look at this little boy here. You saw he come on the front foot just as you describe it. And then if it's short, he push back.
Yes, exactly.
If it's up, he just keep coming. That's all Ray did. Right? And he chastised all of them, say, yeah, look at the little boy. Look how he was doing it. And y'all try and see y'all can do it. Because you remember Daniel had them, this Monster who became a bad man play. He destroyed Munster in the game. Munster had no answer for doing Daniel at Bordeaux.
Reminiscing here on the time. Let me ask you all this. And I'm going back to Holden. Holden said at 22, he was doing what he was doing in England at the Oval. Holden retired at 33. Today we have people who are almost 30, and we say they're still learning, they're still mature. By 22, right. After the India series in 76, England in 76, Holden was the finished product. I mean,
he was pretty close to the finished product.
Yeah. And as I said, at 33, he's done. Sir Andy retired at 32, 33.
Yeah.
And you have people now 30, 31, and they said they're now finding the stride. Y'all talk to me about the difference.
I think I mean, Vincent, what could have come for this? The standard of the game in the bygone eras was way of a higher standard. So you had to develop a lot of skills. If you intended to go up this pathway, if you did develop it at club level, I mean, just think of it at club level. A lot of clubs had White Cup team, Case Cup team, or some even had all three. So within
Basil, you forget Roger Cup inside
and Roger Cup, yes. And in the context of the club itself, you had to allow it to go up within the environment of just a club. So you had to prove yourself at, say, White Cup. And if you conquer that, you get promoted to North Court, you do your business, North Court, you're gone up to the Case Cup. So even within just the club environment, the competition to get to be in the top team was there just in the club. And then you take it elsewhere. In Guyana, we would say the next level from the club was intercounty, wherever you lived in the country, and then intercounty national trials and the national team. The competition was fierce, so guys had to develop skills. I always use the example, and I'm bringing up your boy, Dr. Hines. Alvin Kalicharan and Hetmeyer had very similar records in terms of first-class cricket played before they played for the West Indies, right? And you don't have to be no cricket scholar or anything. It would be clear to you Kalicharan was closer to the finished product by the time he played Test cricket than Hetmeyer was, right? So, and just think about this. Kalicharan played 1 year age group cricket, right? Y'all had the rule back then, Vincent. When he go and play for Guyana, he get blocked out the next year or whatever, right? Kalicharan never went on the A-team tour, right? Kalicharan, I think he played one President's 11 match before he got picked, if memory serves me correct. Whereas Hetmeyer played on the 15 for the Guyana, on the 17 for Guyana, on the 19 for Guyana multiple times, played West Indies on the 19 twice, went on an A-team tour. All of this exposure he got in this era, and he was nowhere close to being the finished product that Kalicharan is. And that's a microcosm of the difference between the two.
I totally agree with everything Basil is saying. I can even take it to a lower level, and that's why I'm a firm believer. And I believe if Clive, becomes in charge of cricket in Guyana, I think he's going to go back to school cricket.
Oh yes,
that's even going to school cricket, because I remember Linden, for example. You had Christian Borg, Mackenzie, Wisma School, and you had Kamako and them school. So we had our way into school cricket, a big time tournament. Dr. Hines, you see when we play them, like in the finals and stuff, both schools in the finals is a holiday, and you got to wear your uniform. It's a Mackenzie Sports Club. Like we had red and maroon uniform, and everybody go to both sides. But when you finish playing that, then they pick an Upper Demerara team, meaning is the best from that from those schools. And then when they pick that Upper Demerara team, then an Upper Demerara team plays the East Bank combined team. And then when they finish playing that, they pick an Upper Demerara East Bank combined team.
And playing the national school.
And they're playing the national school. It's the same, but Georgetown did the same thing with their area. The Quarantine had their team. So it's a competition all the way up. And that was why Clyde Walcott, you remember, I always tell this story because it's an incredible story. When in 1968, when Guyana picked the team, Clyde Walcott, it was an under-21 tournament. Clyde Walcott said, no, Guyana will not play an under-21 tournament and under-21 team. in that under 21 tour. Clyde Walker said, we're going to play, and you had to be 19 or under. Because Clyde said, if you're 21 years old and you make the Ghana team yet, you should be in the Ghana team if you're 21 years old. So we're gonna go with 19 years or under. So Guyana played based on the 19, and that's how it changed the next year. I can't remember if the next year, but the West Indies decided to adapt that and switch it from under 21 back to under 19. So yeah, you should be ready for that level of cricket, Shell Shield and beyond, by the time you're 21 years old.
Yeah, I mean, in 1980, last year before I left to come away here, they had an under 23 tournament, and I got picked for them. I was 15 at the time, and the old boy was in England went to watch a test series. The West Indies was there in 80. So when he came back, he hear I get picked for the under 23 team. So he called RB Kwame and said, Kwame, I sit down right in the living room in the house. Kwame, I hope y'all didn't pick this chap because he named Butcher. And Kwame tell him, no. Basil make the team and merit and so on. So after he come off the phone with Kwame, he turned to me. He said, you can handle Malcolm Marshall. I said, me no. Right. Well, what he was expecting me now, out of 23, is big mark cricket. Malcolm Marshall at the time was 22, right? He said he was just getting my mind in right. There's not them boys just going to play with in the schoolyard. It would took it there. There's not who you want to play against. They're going to play big mark cricket now, right? So, Dr. Hines, as that Vincent said, that school cricket thing was, you know that, me got to tell you, you know about that. That school cricket, I mean, when I tell people around the region that we have not had school cricket in Guyana in over 30-something years, they look at me, man, what? You really? So how, and that is part of the foundation of our cricket all throughout the regions. Cricket, because from school cricket, you then decide if you're really serious of playing a game, you go and join a club. And from there you progress. And then even, as you know, Dr. Vincent, there were some schools in Georgetown who played in the White Cup and North Coast.
Yes, QC, for example.
Yes.
Yes.
Stanislaus,
Central. Yes. Yeah. But the most important thing that it teaches, though, Dr. Hans, I've always said this, it's the pride. Mm-hmm. It builds that pride. And I remember playing for Christianborg Government School as a little boy. And I remember a big game against Mackenzie School. And I made Mackenzie School make 140 or something. And we beat the score. I had like 70 something not out at the end of it. And the school girls, not the boys, the school girls with the uniform, they're the ones who ran onto the field and lifted me off. them little girls. Mm-hmm. But it's that pride because you're playing for something that, mm-hmm. But nowadays, everything is about money and that type of stuff. But what that builds into you, is that you play. It's the same thing even in local cricket. Long time, if you got to be in Queenstown, to be playing for DCC,
for the club,
For GCC, you got to be of a certain color. You got to be mm-hmm. Portuguese and GSC was basically East Coast people. Mm-hmm. If you look at the GSC, well, Indians was all Indians,
right?
The Everest, and every club had its identity mm-hmm. that is related to some mm-hmm. common,
and Cosmos was
Chinese.
That's right. So you're playing for something deeper than you personally. So, but nowadays it's totally different, and I think that's a major difference between those days and today. That pride part is gone. It's all about money now.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair point, that the youngsters of today in Guyana, because In Barbados, in Jamaica, they got robust school cricket competition, but they're not producing the cricketers like they used to. But they still do have their robust school cricket competition in both territories. I don't know how much it is in Trinidad, but I know those two territories, Jamaica and Barbados. Barbados got primary school. Their competition start from primary school. They got a competition going on for years, Horman Griffith Primary Schools competition. The thing is, they got the same structures. Unfortunately, they're not producing the same kind of players, you know. But yeah, I think that part of representation, representing something, if that gets inculcated and early on, you know, it can help to develop that pride in representing something. But you know, Dr. Hines, like the sociology and the history. I mean, you had Indians, which was with the Indians. Actually, DCC, when it was first founded, was Portuguese. Because the Portuguese could not go to GCC. That was for the white people. They weren't, Portuguese weren't seen as white people. So the white people was at GCC. Then you had BGCC. There was a mixed race people. Mixed race people was at BGCC. Maltinos was for the black people. And the working class black people. And you had some of the black intelligentsia and so on at Martinos. And if you notice something about some of those clubs, they got the upstairs and downstairs. Upstairs was for the big boys, the people of a certain status could go upstairs. Anybody couldn't go upstairs there, you know. And as we said earlier, Cosmos, that was the Chinese people club, you know. So you saw all of those from the colonial times, the stratification of the different races reflected in the cricket clubs.
Bassett Butcher Jr. and Vincent Adams here tonight. Gentlemen, after a walloping by Ireland a couple of weeks ago, West Indies bounced back in the next two matches. And we said, well, okay, at least we're going to compete in England. A week and a half, 2 weeks later, 5 straight matches, beaten badly. What's new?
Well,
no, go ahead, Vincent.
That guys, I have said that we gonna. I remember we said this here is a different competition.
Right.
We said this is a different competition, but you know some little things. Look. It's the inconsistency again, the up and down. Look. When we look at Alzari in the last ODI, everybody. I was so happy. I said Alzari has finally settled in on the right. Look at these last 2 games of the Man Bowl.
Look today.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Today and
when he came on at the death.
Yeah, and here's that maybe it's only me and Bassett know we on this chat. In that first ODI and then the first T20, what was really in these guys' head? How could you send Moti? I'm not saying we would have won. How could you send Moti to bat ahead of Shepard and Holder?
You know why that was? The thing you don't like.
Don't tell me about
the
matchups. Don't tell me
what?
The matchup. The
matchup. Oh Lord. Oh God.
Foolishness. There is nothing. I don't care who bowling. That Moti could go and he make a 15 in the ODI. Okay, that was. He's not gonna do that often. He go and he spends he bat. You know, the ball fly off the edge and all kind of thing. Okay, you get away with it. That doesn't make him a better player than Shepard and Holder. There's nothing that Moti can do as a batsman that they cannot do. So what the hell? And that force, we had a chance to win that game because just I'm not saying we would have, but just look at today what Holder and Shepard did. Okay, we had when Moti came into bat in that first T20, it was 115 for 6. With about 6 to 7 overs to go. So we only had like 70-something runs. I'm not saying it would have happened, but at least gave them a chance. And on top of that, if I am Holder and I'm Shepard, what that is telling me, that's my job to go and be the finisher. I am the finisher. And now you bring you're bringing a team, number 11, number 10, 11 batters a bat ahead of me. What is that telling me about your confidence in me?
Data driven, Dr. Adams. Data driven. You remember Vincent in baseball here in the United States? You know, sometimes you'd see the coach flipping through the big manual, to see which pitchy, which bar he should bring in, and so on and so forth. But then you got some managers will say, here, you're looking at how the guy is going at that moment and say, here, I can go with this guy. I got a gut feeling this guy could get this bat out, regardless of what we're having a left-handed throw to a left-hander, the advantage to the left-handed throw and all of these different things, But I agree with you, Dr. The question I raised today was we got rid of Powell as captain because Powell is not on board 100% with his data-driven. Powell is saying there are times there's instinct in the game. You see things going on in the game as it's proceeding.
And he's correct.
Yeah, exactly. Cricket, you can't go with Sammy said we got plan A, plan B, but here you see something going on, and his problem is that you gotta keep with the plan A, plan B, right? And that's where him and Powell wrapped knuckles, right? No, you've removed Powell. And the results remain the same. Because now, Dr. Hines, if memory serves me correct, we have now lost 11 of the last 12 T20 games. Right? So, who is the common denominator? Captain change.
Right.
The captain change. So, these are questions that have to be raised. Is this approach that is so data driven, and maybe Mrs. Sammy and company need to explain to the folks out there, to us out here, what do you really mean by data driven? Because data has always been used in cricket. You've had analysts now for many years, so you always use information for preparation, where you could see a guy weakness, so you know the areas you're gonna bowl to this guy and what kind of fields you might want to set and so on. But even still, then you go on the field and you watch him. You say, "Wait a minute, man! I think I could bring another man, but the data didn't tell me that." But now in the game, because as I think we always want our cricketers to be able to be thinking on their feet.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want guys to be so reliant on that, because it's the same way the modern cricketer, Dr. Hines, are so over-reliant on their coaches, right? That they don't think for themselves. If the coach don't tell them, they would not do X, Y, Z. And that's not what you want. You want players to be self-reliant. You give them the tools and you there to help to guide them. Not to be the one telling them, you got to do this, you got to do that, and so on. Because we all know when you walk out in the middle there, your coach could do it to help you. The coach can't hold the bat. The coach can't hold the ball. And I will just finish with this point. Watching the South Africa A play against West Indies A. Now we got a couple guys who have played test cricket in the fast bowling unit now. Shamar Joseph and Philip. Right? Philip just come back from England playing county.
Right.
And if you listen to the commentators and watching the game, the South African seamers were not giving nothing to our batters. They were consistently hitting top of our stump. Right? Forcing our guys to play. When we bowl, it's a whole different story. We're lucky we get the second wicket at close of play. God, that was such a poor. That guy, like we would say, that guy works for the Guyana fisheries, because when he was going to the battle outside, right? There was no need to play at that ball. It was so wide outside the off stump, right? So you're seeing this A-team tour. If people pay attention, even here, also look at the emerging players against the Sri Lanka. You're seeing those players are so far further down the road than our players. So I hope you pay close attention to this, because this is reflecting on where our cricket is. We all know it, but now we're getting to use them guys. Now we're getting the data because we could measure them up with teams from from across the world that are on, their A team and emerging teams.
Here, in going way back in my time and before that, the data was in your head.
Exactly. That's where you wanted to start.
And when you go there, depending on the condition, you apply that data. And I can give you many examples on Basil know them because it's something. Look, that same Alvin Kalichuran. I remember when I was captain of Mackenzie before Butch was on tour or something, and Kalichuran doesn't hook. Kalichuran is a helper, right? You bowl a bumper, it's going fine leg. Right, Fredericks is the same thing. So we had a bowler named Salomon, real decent pace. So I've been playing for Everest. I got to Salomon. I said, listen, I want 6 bumpers. And I put a man in the fine leg boundary. Like I said, you attack them early. Put them in the sweet spot early. You can't get away hitting 6 sixes, right? Especially Salo run up, bowl, Kali a bumper, Kali getting and ball gone over the fine leg man for 6. 6 again, 2 6s. Salo coming to me said, man, I did this thing and I ain't know, but as I say, if you don't want to let this be your last over, you better do what I tell you. The tour delivery, it go right in my hand, gone back in the pavilion.
I take one for 12 any day.
I take it for 12 every day. Foul backwards, I remember to foul. Coming on board, we playing in a semi-final game. And foul like if he just flick.
Yes.
And I got and this we real quick. I tell you, I said Griffith. I said, Griff, I want you to put this ball right on the pad for me. Griff run up and hit foul, get in and hit ball gone fly for 6 backwards square. Man, Harry me. I said, all right. I tell you, Sam, if you want me, it's you only over, you can have a ball. Do I say? The second delivery, it right in the man hand at backward square. But I just remember that in McRae. We playing in a semi-final games at Police. The wicket was a little wet. Bill White was feeling like slip. So I moved. I said, Bill, McRae come in. And I know McRae, your eyes open big when you get a half volley. Well, I know the ball's stopping. So I decided to put a gully and 2 slips. So Bill White, even Bill thought that I was crazy when I moved and put your gully. But I know the ball's stopping. And I put the man down at deep extra cover, one on deep mid off. So even if you get a whole hit, you got to hit it over there. Do you know first ball we do? I said, Hunty, I want to give it just a half volley and move it away from me. So said though done because Hunty used to, he could Hunty could put it on a dime if you want to. First ball, same, just as how it's set up. You drove through the ball, hook on to the outside end because it's stopping. And gone straight in Bill White hand at gully. He got back in the pavilion. But that's what we're saying. Data didn't tell me anything of the sort. It's because of the wicked condition. And the player, how he plays. That's what you gotta apply, not some data.
And that's the part about the data thing that infuriates me. Is because cricket is the only sport where conditions change all the time. There's no other sport like cricket. Obviously football, the rain come down, you can't run as fast in the field because the field could get muddy if it's that kind of field. But we're talking about the actual playing surface where how it would change. So the data could say, well, this pitch has historically done X, Y, Z, but on that given day, something could be different, and a bowler that the data didn't tell you that could exploit those conditions could be the bowler who would be able to exploit those conditions on that given day. So it's very important the captain to be in the thing, know his players, understand his conditions, and be able to apply it accordingly.
Yep.
The data is useful. I'm not talking about throwing out the data because I could give you an example. We sit down with the analysts. We play in Canada, USA play in Canada. And Canada had a left-handed opening batsman from Sri Lanka. and the data show we, if you bowl the ball within this area, because the guy back swing, he can't handle it. But you know the guy make 100 because none of we bowlers can put the ball where it's supposed to be put. So again, even you have the data, you still have to execute.
But Bassett, that's the difference, and I think these people are confused. There is this matchup nonsense. It's not about a matchup left hand and right hander. It's a matchup of what is a batsman's strength and weakness. It's not about left hand and right hander.
I agree with you, because and that has come from the T20 game. A la baseball. As we know in baseball, they would want a left-handed pitcher throw into a left-handed batter because it says it's harder for a left-handed batter to hit a left hand. And we have adopted that in cricket. Whereas when we would have players, an off spinner that is taught and develop his or her skill to out both right and left-handed batters. Now we relegate the off spinner to bowl into left-handed batters because the ball turns away with the off spinner from the left-handed batters and those kinds of things. No, I think the off spinner you want to have your players develop the skill enough that they could bowl in any situation to any batter. So you can employ any tactic that you want because your players got the skill to facilitate the tactics you want to do. That to me is the approach to go, not this thing with these matchups.
Selection continues to be controversial. Today I watched Johnson Charles.
Mm-hmm.
And
Dr.
talk to me.
Dr. Hines,
yeah.
I think all of us were very surprised when we saw the T20 team and Johnson Charles' name was on the list, right? All of us were surprised. But I know if Johnson Charles' name on the list, Sammy are bringing Charles to England to sit at no bloody bench.
Yep, I totally agree.
At 35, 36 years old, you're bringing this guy to play, right? So I knew he was going to play. I don't know Brandon King is supposed to be in England. I don't know if something is wrong with him, because based on their media release, he is staying up to the end of the England leg,
and then it's coming up.
He got some personal thing and he returns back home, right? So he hasn't played the first two games. So I don't know what's the story with that,
But this chap, Johnson Charles, is missing more balls than he's hitting.
Well, how old is the guy though? How old?
He's about 35, 36.
About 34, about 35.
But even beyond that, the guy is a vulnerability in the field.
Yes, he drops.
You see, like Chase, for example. Chase is a utility man, but when Chase in the field, Chase could feel and catch as good as anybody else.
Took some serious catches today.
Last week, Vincent and I spoke about the young man from Antigua, Joel Andrews.
Yeah, Charles is 36.
Yeah, he's 36, born 1989.
Yeah, 89, January.
They send the young man up to open because the captain clearly don't want to open. The young man fails, and then you drop him the next match. I mean, I don't care. You make him a sacrificial lamb.
That's what I was gonna tell you, Dr. Hines. Remember, Sammy has this philosophy of roles.
Yes.
Right. I was told by a UK-based journalist, if you want to call him that, that when he asked Sammy about Graves, Sammy said, "We have Graves. Graves' role is on the back end to come and at the back end and pep it up." Right. Well, that was interesting to me. When this individual told me about that is what he was told by Sammy when he asked the question at one of the press conferences in the UK there, right? So I then reach out to the Bajans because they know Graves from Lil Boy throughout the career, right? So I asked the Bajan friends, has Graves at any time in his career been one of those kind of batters? Y'all ever seen this? To a man, they all said no. So I'm questioning, is Sammy trying to put a square peg in a wrong hole, right? So because of this rules thing, you remember they went the game before Graves went up and opened because he had done so before. Actually,
he made most of his runs opening.
In his first 5 games for the West Indies, he played in ODI. He opened the batting.
Yes.
And then when he plays for the Leewards in Liste, he opens the batting. So he's familiar in playing that role, right? And playing and having the youngster bat at the bottom, to me, was a better choice, right? No, they probably say, we going with the rules and we're going to let this little boy just be the sacrificial lamb. Because here is my question. We're in England. Even the new ball in the white ball early on does something. We have seen it in all the matches. It does something, right? This boy's technique yet is not suited for England, youngster, because he plays with hard hands. And the worst thing to do is play with hard hands is when the ball moving. Because you got to let the ball come to you and play the ball as late as possible. You can't go. You see, when you saw the side on of when he got out in that game for Duck, his bat was at least 6 inches in front of his pads because he went at the ball, right? So I tell people the boy was a sacrificial lamb. My position was this. Joe Landry should have never been on the team to England. Joe Landry should have been back in the Caribbean playing against the South Africa A in both the 50 over and these test matches like he's doing now in this last test. Joe Landry needs to develop. He needs the reps to develop his game, not sitting around the West Indies team. He needs to play cricket. When you look at the South Africans, you look down and see several of them, a bunch of them, their first class experience is so much more supersedes ours. And you see it reflected in their games because they're experienced players, right? So those are things sometimes I wonder if if the guys who are in charge of our cricket today really understand what it takes to develop a good cricketer. I sometimes wonder some of the decision making I see.
Totally agree. And Dr. Hines and I talked about this last week. This kid, he's obviously very talented, but he's not ready. Even and I've said the same in the Basil said that he should have been back home, developing his skills against the South Africa A team. Even today, he played some nice shots. But even today, you look, the guy does not have that tight technique yet. His foot is down the track, and he pelting the bat outside the half stump.
That's right.
He follow you. If you see how many deliveries he follow outside the half stump that he missed. He got a couple, but he missed a bunch of them. So he's got to tighten up on his technique. And when I hear this nonsense about, I hear Brafitt 4-ball talking about this guy, he's a prodigy.
Prodigy, my butt.
We gotta stop this nonsense, because when you put those type of things in these little kids' head, you're raising the expectations, and then when they go and fail, they it's like they got deflated, and then they lose their confidence. You cannot start talking about a prodigy. What is this guy did to be a prodigy? You talk about his talent. He's very talented.
Yes, he is.
Develop him. Let him develop his skills, like playing against South Africa A, which is what he did today. But even today, I looked at him. He does not have that classic technique of getting your body and bat and stuff close to the ball.
And you know something, Vincent? Today against South Africa, I will bet you is the first time in his life he has faced bowlers that gonna force him bowling the ball in a length and line with the consistency that he got today. Today was his first experience in his entire career to to go up against something like that. You know, I mean, we had a debate about this guy in the chat where there were some individuals saying that this guy, they never see a 17-year-old do this and talking about his record in our first class. And I was pushing back because I said, look, because then another guy in the chat raised up. He said, look, I come up with Lara and Hooper, and this might not remind me nothing of them when they was on the 19 or whatever, but they saying we're doing against 17-year playing first class and so on. But my position was this: the standard of the cricket that he is doing it in, if the talent of a Lara and Hooper was in this environment, what we would be saying, right? Because Lara, for example, in his second first class inning, playing against Barbados with Marshall and Garner, walk into the wicket, Trinidad 12 for 2 or something like that. In Trinidad, they playing in Trinidad, and end up making 92. It's an innings that is remembered, right? This youngster against test bowlers. I mean, test great bowlers, not no run-of-the-mill bowlers. In his second first class, man, come in a situation and did that kind of business. You know, so Joe Landry is a talented, and I think what's happened to us in the Caribbean, because of our cricket, we have been so much in the doldrums. When we see a little bright light, we want to give the hyperbole to the bright light. And I say we got to stay sober and try. The guy is a talented guy. Let us make sure we put the guys in the right environment that we can develop this guy to be the best he can be. Not throwing him into the deep end and hoping for him to swim. You know, it's the same thing, Dr. Hines. We got a youngster in Guyana, the fast bowler, Mr. Tarn. Tarn was our brightest fast bowling prospect a couple of years ago. No, we can't hear where is Tarn. Others have flown past Tarn, right? That he was ahead of them a couple of years ago. You know,
Basil, you have a knack for getting into the heads of the selectors and I'm only being 10% facetiously.
I know.
but what is Russell doing in this team?
Well, Russell made a statement.
I talked to that statement.
He is going to continue to play because there is nobody coming up in the region that has the ability or have shown the performances to take his spot.
The droppy today?
Well, they say he had a sore back.
Okay.
Well, you know.
So if his back wasn't sore, who they would have dropped?
Well, here it would have been between Holder and Fletch and Shepard.
And that's my point. That's precisely my point.
Dropped, right? Because they're going to play the two spinners.
Yes.
Chase was going to play because Chase is a utility man. Right. Is one of the seamers would have get dropped?
Yes, it's Russ, Shepard or Holder. And that would have been so unfair to those guys.
Let me tell you something. I think this guy, I don't know if they've spoken to him or what, but Kemo Paul still remains a very talented cricketer. If harnessed as thing, Kemo Paul can more than take the role of Russell. Because Russell is no longer the fielder he used to be.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Yep. Kemo Paul is a superb fielder. Right? And Kemo Paul, I mean, sometimes his batting thinking, I just be
right. His batting has come on, but
yes,
he had no matchup with the talent.
All the shots. It's just about him being understanding, being more game aware, in my view. And as a bowler, he got all the skills, as particularly in the white ball game, because I think what had happened to Kemo Paul, because of the amount of white ball cricket he had played, when he got back into playing red ball cricket, this is a couple of years ago, he was trying to do too many things. Where red ball cricket, it calls for more discipline, where you're hitting the areas. You're not letting a bowl a slow ball, then a faster ball, trying to bowl over 4 or 5 different balls in the over. The red ball game is all about patience and so on to work the battle. You got a plan. You know, more times than not, when you get to a certain level, you don't blow out batters because they're good enough, right? So you got to have a plan how you can go about stage by stage to get this guy out, right? And Paul, I will argue this with anybody. In terms of raw ability, Paul is the best all-around player we got in the Caribbean.
Vincent? I like Holland Shepherd. Holland Shepherd should be playing in that team.
Yeah, I had no problem with that.
And that's why I was so pissed off when they put Moti Tabata ahead of them, because that's ridiculous.
I remember that.
If Russell is around,
well, I'm also Russell man, but I think it's time for you. I mean, you can tell it. There comes a time. I've always been a Russell man, okay? But to me, you've got to decide now. We're moving forward because there's not a whole lot of difference. Even if he is, Russell is playing well. To me, there's not a whole lot of difference between Russell, Shepherd, and Holder. So and he's on his way out. So let's go with, and the feeling, like Basil said, the feeling to me, it makes a lot, because to me, Holder, when I got over my team, and you remember, cricket is always a game of moments. All it takes is one out, and with holding the field, catching, whether it's boundary or around the wicket, and the guy is one of the cleanest hitters. A lot of people don't give him credit.
Yeah, he got.
Today we see it.
He signed with those 3 6s.
Yeah, I mean, we always gotta remember, so this 6'8".
Yeah,
right? Yeah, exactly.
And the guy got to reach. Right?
Yeah.
So if Holder striking, it could be a very difficult proposition.
Yep.
To keep him quiet, because the ball that you can bolt a guy a foot short of, he gonna reach where you give that guy the problems. He's gonna reach it and hit it out the park.
And here's the difference. And here's where I think Shepherd and Holder, I would even give them the edge over Russell. Russell to me is a clean swiper. Mm-hmm. And if you bowl the ball right into him,
he's arc. Yes,
he's got to get room where he can stretch your whole hand, your whole arm, and people are starting to figure him out. If you give him the whole arm length to stretch, but if you just run it into him, right in the pad,
and fuck him up, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But them boys is hit with the full face of the bat.
Mm-hmm.
They go with the full face, technically correct in terms of how they hit it.
My issue with Shepherd is that Shepherd, one thing he got to stop, he got to improve from. He wants to kill the ball. Yeah. Right? So sometimes he's jumping out of his shoes and losing his shape rather than stay, because he got to remember, I got the power to hit the ball to anywhere. I don't got to swing. Sometimes I just strike him for if he can rinse you back. When he missed some of them balls with a violent swing, a couple of them he missed the other day with a violent swing.
Yeah, with a slow ball,
ball. I said, oh Lord, I hope this by a Richie back. You know what I mean? So I think he got to realize, I got power anywhere. I don't have to be swinging and losing my shape. You can give yourself a better chance to get the ball.
Why Hussein?
Go ahead.
Why Hussein is not playing ODIs?
Well, the reason he's not playing is because they're not picking him. Hussein wants to play.
He should be playing ODIs.
I agree.
Basil, you get into the heads of the selectors. Mm-hmm. Why they don't think he's an ODI
look, I've been asking the question, why isn't Hussein in our ODI team? And this is even before Sammy, because they wasn't picking him under the last selection panel. All of a sudden, this guy is just playing T20 cricket. Well, I find out. I get to find out Hussein wants to play, but he's just not being selected, and that's a question we need to ask. Why is he not being selected to play in the 50 over game? I remember the one series, against Bangladesh a couple of years ago when they played in Guyana, where Moti outbowled him and so on and so forth. He didn't do as well there. But that's part of the game. Your guy's going to have not so good series and those kinds of things. But from since then to now, he's actually improved his bowling and has added weapons because that ball is bowl that's look like an in swinger that he's added to his repertoire. Would come in handy in the 50 over game. So I don't understand why. And let me tell you, he came off the field today with a hamstring.
Who is that?
Hussein.
Yes,
he came off the field with a hamstring. No, think about this. This guy got off a plane flying for 10 hours or whatever from Trinidad.
Yes.
And then walk straight into and we know about the dehydration and all those various things that could occur on long flights and all of those things. So when I heard the complaints, Hussein is off the field with a suspended hamstring issue, I said, oh Lord. I wonder what instructions, because I know professional teams, when they go in a long flights, one of the things the training staff is make sure the players are getting adequate fluids and all those various things for the flight, because that's something can happen to you sitting on a long flight. And then you're sitting on a long flight, you're sitting for so long, your hamstrings, because when you sit down and you're with a 90-degree thing, your hamstrings are partially contracted. So you sitting for that prolonged period with your hamstrings contracted, So
but guys, tell me what is this? I can't. What the hell is happening here with this visa stuff? Where did this come from?
Well, Trinidad, England put Trinidad on a special thing.
There was I could tell y'all offline. I ain't gonna talk in the public, but I just gonna give you the gist. There was a clerical error made, if you want to use that. Seemed like a clerical error was made, because remember he would have put in at the time for the waiver before this thing came into fruition in March, right? Because remember, you got the Trinidadians in the tour,
right?
You got Evan Lewis, you got Ravi Rampal, the Trinidadians, right?
Yeah.
They were because when all of this would have been done was before the change of things. So it was still doing the waiver where you go on and do that electronic thing online. Because I know Vince said, no, even we US citizens going to England, we got to go online now, and do this thing.
Yeah?
Yeah, we can't walk in England no more just like that. It just lasts for 2 years.
But I tell you, but Guyanese could go to England without they
got to fill out that. They got to go online and do the same thing. But now, what happened to Trinidad? Because of whatever happened when he put in the thing and there was some issue, the rule then changed. Now the rule changed to Trinidadians. You got to show up physically to the High Commission with your passport to get your visa.
Hey, Dr. Hines.
Yes, sir.
We could get as politicians, I've got to say, this here has to be that the Isle done in Trinidad.
Yeah.
The Isle done. So we could care less about Trinidad anymore.
Yeah.
The Isle done.
Yeah.
Because for them to put Trinidad on
the
visa list again after they were not on the visa list, it seems like you're.
I bet you if Trinidad was still producing that was still, by God, this would not, this kind of nonsense wouldn't happen.
I agree.
Yeah. So we know Hope gonna be in the test team.
You sure about that?
Well, I mean, reading between the lines, at least.
that would be a joke if you pick Hope.
Well, reading between the lines, reading what he said, I heard him.
He said he gave inclination that he was willing to come back and play test cricket.
Yeah, but I read in between that.
Well, okay.
Sammy said he spoke with them and he told them what they had to do.
Yeah.
And remember, Shea went home. He played one match, I think.
Yeah.
And then went his merry way.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, of course, I'm hearing. Is that in the not old days, with the Bravos and Pollards and so on, the West Indies selectors could not give those guys an assurance that if they forego some of these contracts in the league, that they would be selected. I understood they would ask that, and the selectors could not give them an assurance. So understandably, if you can't give me an assurance, I'm sure that I go in and make some money here.
Sure.
Right? And so they're saying that Sammy's operating differently. He's giving assurances to these guys that they will be selected.
Well, Sammy, whether he's operating differently, I think is beside the point. Sammy has the power to pick who he wants to pick.
Right.
So unlike in the past, selectors were bound by what the cricket board's policies were. Because look, Bravo forgo his contract, left his contract early.
And they didn't pick it.
Right? And this was after the India debacle, where in meetings, one of the things they agreed there'll be no retribution to the players involved in what happened in India. Well, the next time we played, the first thing they did, they stripped Bravo and Pollard of captain and vice captain, made Jason Knowles the captain. They dropped Pollard and Bravo from the 50 over team. They got picked for the T20 team. This was in South Africa, if you remember. Well, Bravo had gone back home, because you remember the World Cup was coming up. The World Cup in Australia and New Zealand was coming up. Bravo left Australia, went back home and played for Trinidad and Tobago in the 50 over competition. Right? And then when they picked the team, Bravo was not picked. And from then, Bravo said, I will never, ever again leave a contract to come and play for the West Indies. Right? So that's where that is from. The West Indies board, obviously, when Skerrett them came in, one of their things was because we all know historically the relationship between the West Indies Cricket Board and the players have always been an antagonistic one, to say the least. The players, the board has always wanted to treat the players like little boys and so on and so forth. There was never that professional respect being accorded to the players from the board historically in West Indies cricket, right? So one of the things they said they're going to set out to do was to try to repair this relationship. I think in trying to repair the relationship, I think at times they've bent over backwards. It's like to give you an example, like the Me Too movement, right? The Me Too movement come in. They went from one side of the pendulum and swing all the way back. So any woman accuse a man is gospel truth, right? Rather than you say, yes, what's supposed to happen is that every accusation will be taken seriously and follow through in the manner it's supposed to follow through. You're not going to just doubt a woman or any person or so on and so forth. But you can't get somebody coming 35 years later and say, oh, John Jones do this to me, and where is the corroborating evidence and so on and so forth, right? So they went to the flip. So it's the same thing with these guys. They went from one side where they had the intransigence between the players and the board to where the guys look at Mr. Puran. Mr. Puran say he got to get rest. But Mr. Puran will be playing come when Thursday for the Mumbai Indians New York team in the Major League Cricket. Right?
Yeah.
He had to get a so some people are asking, should we worry about Puran anymore? Should we move on from Puran? Because there comes a point where the West Indies cricket brand has to get respect.
Yeah.
Right? Because what are you saying to the younger players?
That's right.
The players gonna watch this and say, "Oh, this is how."
That's right.
All right, good.
But Basil, you know, for years now I've been saying the same thing, but this boat has gone as far as it can turn back. We
Yeah,
allow this thing to go too far,
yeah, the
and
horse
it's
is
out
out of
of
the barn.
control. It should absolutely the horse is out of the barn. We can't. It's hell to get it back into the barn. But
Correct.
but going back to with Hope, look, I'm a Hope man. I believe Hope is the best pure batsman we've got in all formats in the West Indies. I would love for Hope to play Test cricket, but I do not believe that Hope wants to play Test cricket because it's not going to be easy. The style of Hope batting today, it's not going to be easy for him to go and readjust back to Test
That
cricket. And I believe
that that
he's
that's
afraid
my,
of that more than anything else.
that that's my point, Vincent. Because the reason why Hope was dropped, I haven't seen Hope correct those technical issues. Even watching him bat in ODI cricket particularly, I haven't seen him corrected that. So I think, I mean, even this other youngster, Carty, you've been making all the runs. Carty similar to me like Hope. Both of them just get nick off.
The nick up, right. So
But
once
then
you go
ODI
to Test
match,
cricket,
you ain't
yes.
got you ain't got you usually ain't got three slips and a gully waiting behind it for you.
That's right.
So the ball gone 3 for 4, right? I
Yeah.
remember Carty to get dropped
Yes,
at his second slip. But truly, if that was a test match, there would have been a third slip because the guy had to dive too far and he needed a little shot, man.
Yes.
Duckett got about 5'4", 5'5", right? He could, but where Duckett dived, he was able to get his hand on the ball. If it was that ball would go straight into third slip's hands, right? So, that's why, to me, this is my opinion. I think Hope would still struggle in Test cricket, as well as a Carty would struggle, would still continue to struggle in Test cricket, in my view, right? And Hope. So we are, because of Hope, beautiful stroke play and so on, people are looking at Hope as a great guy to come into the team. Now, you look at Hope's record, his record is just like the guys in the team, the current guys in the team, as a test batsman. And he hasn't played test cricket since 2020, 21.
4 years.
4 years or so.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
4 years ago, he hasn't played test cricket. So, I've been.
I don't believe he's there. I think he's afraid to be. He's afraid to play Test cricket, to be honest, because you've got the Kohlis and them who can adjust. But I do not believe that he will. Even though I still believe he's got the skills, but I do not believe it's adjusting back like how Kohli and them would adjust. But I don't think that he can do it, and I believe that's the main reason why he does not want to play Test cricket anymore. And then them guys Test cricket, them guys are making no money in Test cricket. So why the heck do you go out there for 4 or 5 days, tire yourself out, and you don't get in not much when you could go and play your for your 3-hour game and that type of thing. But I'm telling you, in terms of the team, they should be concerned with that middle order batting, even at the opening slot. But the middle order bat, look up to today, Athenaeus. And this bowling here, the South Africa A team, and you were right. I mean, these guys are very disciplined. And this is not a test team. This is not a test team. And look, you put him on the prayer. And this man just throw away. Look, the tree. Look, we had even Braffett. Look how we are just push it through cover. Our by Anderson, same thing, straight to cover, and we were just getting out with basic thing. But the reason why that was the case was because the South African bowlers were sticking to that line and length.
Correct.
And what you do, you put pressure on them, and then suddenly they believe they got to play a shot.
I know. Just think about this. These are South African A bowlers. They're not even the top tier guys in South Africa. And I mean top tier guys who outside the test team. They're not even the top tier guys. We got to run into Starks, Cummins, and Hazelwood. It's them as a three we got to run into, which is miles ahead of what these guys doing, right? So,
Gentlemen, On that note, by the time we come back next week, the team should be known.
Really?
Yes.
They
Next
said-
week.
Wait. Hold on, Dr. Hines.
Yeah.
You remember West Indies
Well,
board.
they may not
announced
announce the team.
2 and 3 days before the match starts.
Yeah, but Mason is going to leak the team to us.
Okay, I hope Andrew gets a hold of the team by hook or by crook, because everybody is waiting with bated breath to see what this team is going to be.
Yeah.
And
like none of them batsmen want to play though. Like none of them batsmen want to play. It seems like.
Remember, it's Australia, Vincent.
Australia.
It's not Bangladesh or.
I am hearing even the boy who is going home for personal reasons is in the mix.
Brandon King.
Brandon King. I understand he's in the mix.
No, I like Brandon. I think Brandon.
That's a guy been calling for to see if he's gonna play Test cricket.
But he's saying he want to bat in the middle.
Yeah, no opening. He got bat in the middle.
And you heard Shallow said he want Puran to play Test cricket.
Yeah, Puran. I don't think the way Puran bats now, he will be lost in Test.
I totally agree. Totally. Yeah. But going back to Brandon King and Hope, as far as I'm concerned, are the 2 pure batsmen to me, the best batsmen in the West Indies period.
I think Hope is going to play in the team. And
I think it'd be. But wait, hold on, Dr. Hines. Before you close off, I see one of your people here saying that we backed Shea Hope all the way when he's chosen to replace Powell. Well, I can tell that person, not me. I question strenuously Powell getting removed as because I wanted to understand on what grounds. And when I hear it's because of the data driven and so on, that was not good enough for me, right? Yes, Sir Clive suggests he should be tested. I disagree with Sir Clive there, right? Because Sir Clive questioned Hope, Chase being captain, being out of the team for a couple of years, but I guess Sir Clive forgot that Hope was out double the time. So I had a disagreement.
We did not know, but we did not back Hope. The discussion was around what was the reason for Powell removal.
Exactly. Yeah, Powell's removal similar to the way they removed the guy Andre Coley as Test coach. It's two boneheaded decisions as far as I'm concerned.
And on that note, as Andrew Mason says, strike up the band.
Yes.
Time to go home. I'll see you guys next week. And hopefully by then, Andrew will
let us broken the test team.
Have a good one during the week.
All right.
I'll see you next week. And thanks to you in the audience. You all have stayed for 2 hours. Only cricket and politics, but cricket. I'll see you all next week.